Hello and a very warm welcome to all of you. My name is Pratik and I'll be taking up the news today discussion for 13th March 2026. The first main news is CE-20 cryogenic engine ground test successful by ISRO. So in this particular news, we will understand the concept of cryogenic engine, the principles behind which it works, and some of the advantages and disadvantages. In the second news, we'll look into how VO Chidambaram Port Authority became the first port in India to launch digital twin initiative. So here we'll understand the concept of digital twin initiative and what are some of the significance of it, and then we'll look into the applications of the digital twin initiative in several domains. In the third news, we'll talk about the Defense Forces Vision 2047 and what are the major components and the significance of this vision. And the fourth news is about National Geospatial Policy 2022. Here we'll understand the importance of geospatial policy and how it has democratized the access to information and it has made the whole process more equitable. And then we'll talk about, in the fifth news, we'll talk about 10 years of International Solar Alliance and its various functions and some of the recent developments in this regard. Then we'll have some quick updates, and in the places in news, we'll be looking into Lebanon. So the first news is ISRO has successfully conducted the CE-20 cryogenic engine ground test. Okay, so this particular news will be part of GS paper 3 Science and Technology, where we have to specifically study about the space technology. And now this is very important news because this comes within the backdrop of some of the failures in the launches of ISRO, particularly the PSLV C62 and C61. Now here, to understand the significance of this, we have to understand what exactly is the cryogenic technology and what exactly is the cryogenic engine and the various applications. So first thing is, this engine CE-20 is an advanced cryogenic rocket engine which is indigenously developed by ISRO. Now this statement is a very profound one because it is that technology which was earlier denied by US to India. So before 1991, the cryogenic technology was given to India in a way by USSR, and after the end of Cold War, US directed Russia to not provide cryogenic technology to India under the MTCR, right? So India had to indigenously develop the cryogenic technology, and it took us around 2 decades or 20 years to develop the cryogenic technology. Now, this again tells us that India is under the only 6 countries that possesses this technology, which includes US, Russia, Japan, France, China, and now India. And what is the significance of this technology? It is used in the third stage of LMV3 vehicle. Now, LMV3 vehicle, you may have heard, it was earlier known by the name of GSLV Mk3. And recently its name was changed from GSLV Mk3 to LMV3, right? And what was the reason behind that? The reason behind that was for GSLV Mk3, the satellites that it would be putting into space would be geosynchronous in nature. But here, the LMV, that is the launch vehicle, Mark III vehicle or launch, will be putting up the satellites in not just the geosynchronous orbits, but also in the lower Earth orbit and in the middle Earth orbit, apart from the geosynchronous Earth orbit. And this was particularly only for geosynchronous Earth orbit, and using GSLV Mk3 we had sent Chandrayaan-2 in 2019. Now it is also for enhancing. Now this is one of the launch vehicle that is capable of sending launch the satellites of very high, huge weight, right? Especially the payload capacities, including the Gaganyaan program, which has the whole purpose of sending human satellites or human-based uh, space thing, and also becoming self-reliant, right? So this is the significance that not only it will be used as the third stage of LMV-3 launch vehicle, it will also be used for future payload capacities and for becoming self-reliant, where India will not be using technology from advanced economies or countries, but it will be reliant on its own technology. Next, we'll also look into the cryogenic engine, the principles under which it functions. So the cryogenic engine is a type of a rocket engine that utilizes liquefied gases for its fuel and oxidizer. So within this cryogenic engine, uh, it means that the gases are liquefied and they are kept at extremely low temperature, that is around below minus 150 degrees Celsius. And the kind of propellants that is used here is liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen. So liquid oxygen is used as an oxidizer, and liquid hydrogen is used as the fuel, right? Now, when liquid hydrogen is replaced with kerosene, that is the semi-cryogenic engine, right? So this is about the cryogenic engine. Now, what is the technology that is used, or on what principle does it use? It is based on the fact that it is a reaction engine, which means that a thrust is generated by expelling the high speed exhaust gases in one direction. And you know about the Newton's third law, that the equal it produces an equal and opposite reaction that pushes the rocket forward, right? So again, this is the whole principle under which the cryogenic engine functions. Now, what are the advantages of the cryogenic engine? So the advantages of cryogenic engine is that it provides for more force per kilogram of propellant compared to the conventional engines like your solid fuel based engines or the liquid based fuel engines. So it is more efficient. Secondly, since the output of the cryogenic fuel is largely water, that is why it does not release harmful gases. It is better, or it is good for environment. It is environmentally friendly, it is non-toxic, and it is also non-corrosive. Thirdly, it also provides for it is non-hypergolic, which means that it does not ignite spontaneously, which makes the ground operations safer. And then it is also cost effective because it can ultimately reduce the cost of launch operations because it is more efficient in nature. At the same time, it also has certain disadvantages. First is, since we require so the liquids at extreme temperature, we have discussed that we need to store liquids as at less than minus 50 degrees Celsius. That is why a complex storage requirement is there, which increases the whole operational cost. And secondly, it also creates ignition challenges because it needs highly specialized ignition systems to start the engine, right? So these are some of the advantages and the disadvantages of the cryogenic engine. Now, as far as UPSC is concerned, they can ask you questions from the prelims perspective with respect to these details in terms of what are the which of the following is an advantage, or some of the conditions that are required to function it properly. The next news is about digital twin initiative. And digital twin initiative is something which a lot of countries in the world have already started, and now India has also started this. And especially VO Chidambararnar port authority has become the first port in India to launch the digital twin initiative. Okay, so in this we'll understand what is digital twin initiative and what is the advantages and what are the further applications of digital twin initiative. So before going for this, let's understand some of the prelims related information or background. So the VO Chidambarnar port was earlier called as Tuticorin Port, is one of the 13 major ports in India. So remember that ports in India are categorized either as major port or minor port. Major ports are those which are operationally handled by the union government, and the minor ports are generally handled by the state government. So what kind of port is VO Chidambaram port is? It is an artificial deep sea harbor located in Thoothukudi, that is in Tamil Nadu. Earlier it was known as Tuticorin, but now this is the decolonized name of Tuticorin port. Now its history dates back as early as 123 AD, when Ptolemy from Greece described Tuticorin as a flourishing trade center, and it has been a center for a very specific form of fish that is called as pearl fisheries for centuries, right? So this is the historical background that you should keep in mind when you are studying about this particular port. Now let's come back to the digital twin initiative, what exactly it is. So digital twin initiative is just like creating a digital replica of a physical object. For example, you can create any sort of, for example, if there's a product or there's a building, you can create a digital replica of that building and see the real time changes that is happening with respect to all the events around that building. Okay, and the same can be extended not just to a building, but it can be enlarged to cities as well. For example, Singapore has created an entire virtual digital twin of its city that helps us analyze the real-time congestion, traffic issues, security issues, because of the fact that they have used artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, 5G initiatives. So all of these technologies have helped them in understanding all those changes that is happening at the real time. And based on that intelligence, they can take some real actionable and smart decisions. The same concept can be applicable with respect to healthcare, can be applicable at the level of space launch, right? Because instead of directly doing this at the physical level, if you can create a digital replica of the same thing and stimulate all the things that you want to do, that would be much more cost effective. In fact, this initiative of digital twin was started way back when the Apollo mission was not that successful by NASA. So they created the entire physical replica of the mission, and later the idea caught on, and then they started creating a digital twin of various space launches, and they would be able to replicate everything that was there in the space and see the impact that it would have on those space vehicles. The same concept is also done with respect to surgery. For example, a digital replica or twin of heart or any organ is created, and then it can be operated upon without actually going through operating the actual organ. This can help us provide some invaluable insight and learning, right? So this is what digital twin initiative is in very simple terms. Now, what it is written is that it is a virtual representation of a physical object. So object can be anything, or it can be a system, which means that it is a collection of physical objects that uses the real time data. So it is not a static system, it is fed by real time data. So all the changes that is happening to the physical object or the system is also happening to the digital twin as well. It reflects real world counterparts behavior, performance, and the conditions. Now the digital twins enable, what it does, it enables continuous monitoring, simulation, and analysis of an object, product, or system over the course of its life cycle, from design and production to maintenance and decommissioning. Now, what has happened recently is that the VO Chidambaram port has been created now. Now, this will create a real-time virtual replica of the port's infrastructure, operational assets, and maritime ecosystem. Now, what will this help in? This will help in understanding where there is congestion. It will also help, so whenever a ship enters a port, it can understand, okay, this is the place where it should go, and it should dock, or it should go to that place. Or it will also help in the decongestion or in the logistical efficiency. Now, when it comes to the logistics cost in India, it is as high as 13% of the GDP. While if you compare it with the developed countries, it is as low as 8%. And with respect to China, it is around 10% of the GDP. So much of money, resources are wasted with respect to the huge time turnaround time, and also because of the huge logistics cost. Now, because of the digital twin initiative, this logistics cost is expected to reduce by around 25%, which is a huge benefit when it comes to enhancing this uh, port maintenance and port development. Now, it is also in line with several of the initiatives that the government has taken at the level of port development. For example, the Sagarmala project. Now, the Sagarmala project has several components such as port modernization, port based post based development, community development, etc. So this would fall under the port modernization scheme. Then we also had the maritime vision 2047. So it basically fits in line with the all the major objectives. Okay. Now, what are the technologies that are being used? IoT sensors, GPS tracking, LIDAR, mapping, drone imaging, and CCTV networks, etc. So I hope the underlying concept is clear to you. Now, what are the use cases? So not only for the ports, it can be used across different domains, including manufacturing for custom design for enhancing operational processes, or for aerospace for identifying defect, aircraft tracking. For construction, it can help in project planning and logistics. For utilities, in terms of power grid planning. And for agriculture, for advanced smart farming, weather prediction, stress identification. So we can see that all of them are hugely important. Maybe you can take a pause and take a screenshot of this. This will help you understand what are the applications of the digital twin initiative. In fact, you should also understand that these use cases are just some of the examples. In fact, it can go even beyond that. Next news is recently the defense minister has released a Defense Forces Vision 2047, a roadmap for a future ready Indian military. So this is a roadmap for future ready Indian military. It is part of GS paper 3 security. And with the ongoing wars which are recently happening, for example, the US, Israel, Iran war, or the Russia, Ukraine war, or the earlier war which happened earlier, that is the Azerbaijan, Armenia war, or the Thailand, Cambodia clash, all of this have actually indicated this one thing, that the nature of war has changed like anything. And it is very important that we also change in line with the changing nature of warfare. Now, what is the change that has happened? One is that there is increasing use of technology. Second, the theater of war is not just limited to the land or seas or air. It has also proliferated to areas such as cyberspace, such as space. So we need to be prepared for that. Then the problems or the security issues that we are facing is not just limited to one single theater. It can also come or it requires coordinated efforts of all the security forces. And more importantly, it requires coordination and whole of nation approach in line with the changes which we are already seeing. Therefore, the government has decided to provide a blueprint, that is the long-term roadmap of how we are going to change the way our defense forces are operating, right? And this has been articulated by the Headquarters Integrated Defense Staff, IDS, to transform the defense forces into a modern, integrated, and technologically advanced military. So what are the major components of this? So here again there are 4, 5, 7, 8 components which is highlighted here, but I'll just summarize it for you. The first component of the roadmap is that there is going to be increased reliance or jointed operation, right? So earlier our operations used to be very much fragmented in nature. For example, army was concerned with the operations at the land, navy was concerned with the operations at the sea level, and vice versa. So this approach has not worked very well for us, and especially during the after the Kargil war, there was Kargil Review Committee and Naresh Chandra Committee that talked about the integration or jointedness of the operation of the military forces. So the first major development in this regard is that we need to go for jointedness of operation. The second one is about increasing this capability and sustenance, especially enhancing our capability through several technologies such as Defense Geospatial Agency, air defense systems such as part of Mission Sudarshan Chakra. So essentially what it means is that we should also be integrating some of the recently developed technologies for our internals or for our security and defense. Then we also need to have conceptual and doctrinal clarity. For example, after Operation Sindoor, we had released a doctrine stating that we will treat terrorism as a threat or as an act of war when it comes to Pakistan, right? So because earlier we used to distinguish between the state actors and the non-state actors, which was utilized by Pakistan to use its strategy of bleed India through thousand cuts. So now India has provided a doctrinal clarity in terms of that we will be treating all the attack as if it has been conducted by a homogeneous entity, right? Then there is also importance with respect to training, education, and empowerment with respect to strengthening the Agnipath scheme to attract youth, advanced military technology courses, especially in AI and emerging technologies. Then we also want to enhance the defense indigenization, especially because we have seen how US had denied several countries like Venezuela with respect to, or it has misdirected GPS technologies, or it has infiltrated the cyber security issues or cyber security problems of countries like Iran through Stuxnet, right? So all of these countries have seen that it is important to have their own uh, technology that is free from external intervention. So it is important that we indigenize our technology. Not only it will give us more strategic autonomy, but it will also reduce our defense import, and will also allow India to export its product, defense product, to different countries, particularly the countries of the global south. Then we also need to enhance our defense diplomacy, especially using HADR as one of the important instrument in the region, especially in the South Asian region, and strategic culture and climate through rooted in the indigenous Indian knowledge, while shredding colonial practices. Indian Defense University to align professional military education with strategic leadership and innovation. So the whole idea is that there is no one approach that is required. We need to overhaul the entire approach, because the earlier approach of our army or of our military used to be embedded in the Cold War mentality, right? So now we have to shed that mentality, and now it is time that India starts incorporating the technology and incorporating the important the importance of diplomacy and whole of nation approach. So the security of the borders is not just the responsibility of the armed forces, but also of the society at large, right? So this is the message that the government is trying to give through the defense roadmap. And the roadmap is also broken down into three phases where different outcomes are aligned. So phase one will be up to 2030. That will be the era of transition, because we cannot expect the organization to transform overnight. So you have to give some sort of timeline to provide for this transition. And this is focused on organizational restructuring, border control, optimum use of human resources. The second phase will be from 2030 to 2040, and this is going to be the era of consolidation, where which is aimed at achieving the multi-domain capabilities, transitioning to data-centric operations. The last phase will be from 2040 to 2047, which is coinciding with the 100th year of India's independence, for the era of excellence, and it is to transform the Indian Defense Forces into a world-class military. Now, within this, UPSC had asked a question at the prelims level about the Chief of Defense Staff. So here is the question. What are the duties of the Chief of Defense Staff as the head of Department of Military Affairs? First, permanent chairman of the Chief of Staff Committee, which is correct. Third, principal military advisor to Defense Minister on the three tri-services matter. This is also correct. The second one, exercise military command over the three services chief. Now, this is a very extreme statement, and largely the extreme commander is the president and not the chief of defense staff. So second is not correct. So only 1 and 3 are correct. So the right answer would be D. Next news is Union Minister has highlighted that National Geospatial Policy 2022 democratized access to geospatial data. And this is a topic that is important from the perspective of GS paper 3, that is infrastructure. And this geospatial policy was launched in 2022 to position India as a global leader in the geospatial sector. Now, geospatial sector is a very important sector because the navigation, which common citizen do using Google Maps or tracking of several resources, disaster management, crop insurance, all of this is dependent on the navigation. Sorry, not just navigation, but it's dependent on the geospatial data, where a particular object is located, what are the conditions in which it is grounded, all these things. So as of now, most of the countries are dependent on the US companies for access to the geospatial data. But as we have discussed earlier also, during the time of war or during the time when the other countries want to limit the access of the geospatial data, it is possible that it would undermine the national security of these countries. So it is always a good idea to have our own geospatial data with us and to democratize the process so that more and more people are able to use it. So this is precisely what has been done as part of the National Geospatial Policy 2022. So what are the so what exactly is geospatial technology? It is an umbrella term for a large range of modern tools and systems used to collect data sets, to map the Earth's surface, understand societies, and conduct spatial analysis. And the word geospatial refers to anything related to a location, especially data and information regarding features on the Earth's surface. Types of geospatial technologies can include remote sensing. So you are getting a sense of the terrain through remote technology or through distant technology. Geographic Information System, GIS, LIDAR, that is light detection and ranging, GPS, internet mapping technologies, etc. Now, what are the important goals that have been enunciated by the National Geospatial Policy? The first one is that it established high resolution topographical survey and mapping system to develop a highly accurate digital elevation model for the entire country by 2030. So this is the timeline that they have mentioned, and they want to develop what is called as digital elevation model. So which space or which object is located at what elevation, so height based prediction. Then establish a geospatial knowledge infrastructure underpinned by an integrated data and information framework by 2030. Again, the target year is 2030. And then generate high resolution bathymetric geospatial data for inland waters and deep sea topography and develop a national digital twin. So we have talked about the national digital twin of a certain port. So this is, again, it comes from National Geospatial Policy of 2022. So we want to develop a national digital twin for major urban centers by 2035. So here the target year is not 2030, but it is 2035. So please keep that in mind. Then what is the institutional framework? How it will be implemented? So goals are not enough. We also need some institution to translate the vision into reality. And for that, we have Geospatial Data Promotion and Development Committee, that is GDPDC, as the apex or the top national body to drive the ecosystem, to oversee that the goals are being met, to check what are the challenges and suggest the government to remove the obstacles, etc. What is the data infrastructure? To create the National Geospatial Data Registry and a unified geospatial interface to ensure seamless data access and sharing. So this is the all the major aspects with respect to National Geospatial Policy 2022. And within this geospatial technologies, government has launched several other initiatives as well. You should have some idea about that. So within this National Geospatial Mission, NGM was launched in 2025-26. And what was the objective of this? To develop foundational geospatial infrastructure and data. Infrastructure, how it will be done, and data, the engine through which it will be run. Okay, so infrastructure and data. Operational Dronagiri, a pilot initiative to demonstrate real-world application of geospatial technology, within which it will be demonstrated how geospatial data will be useful for mapping urban terrain, for agriculture, maybe agriculture, crop insurance, etc. Then continuously operating reference station, CORS network, that is for high accuracy location data. And then BISAGN, that is Bhaskaracharya National Institute for Space Applications and Geoinformatics, to provide specialized service and solutions in implementing map-based GIS. So these are some of the initiatives which the government has taken for promoting the geospatial technologies. The next news is about 10th Foundation Day of International Solar Alliance celebrated in New Delhi. So essentially this is about how the International Solar Alliance has which was established in 2015, has now completed 10th year of its foundation. Okay, so on this occasion, the International Solar Alliance has also announced two key initiatives. One is with respect to national green hydrogen, or with respect to green hydrogen, and with respect to storage technologies, to identify and support the innovative startups which are working at the forefront of this, to provide for more ideas about this. Now this is at the intersection of GS paper 2, that is IR, and then also it is at the intersection of GS paper 3, especially with respect to environment. Okay, so we need to understand what kind of body is International Solar Alliance and what is the genesis of this. So it was announced in 2015 at the sidelines of the COP21 meeting in 2015 at the climate conference in Paris, right? And it is an intergovernmental organization, which basically means that the member states are sovereign countries, okay? And it is dedicated to advancing solar power adoption for a carbon neutral future. Now, the idea behind this was very simple, that most of the countries which were there in the belt of Tropic of Cancer to Tropic of Capricorn, they would receive a huge amount of rain, sunshine, right? So they had potential to develop solar technologies at scale, right? But the problem that they faced was that solar power, development of solar energy, was a very capital intensive endeavor. Apart from the capital that was required, it also needed a huge technical output and also human resource capability. Now, India took this as a challenge, and because India's goal aligned with the goal of the global South, so India wanted to take this at the forefront, and through this instrument of International Solar Alliance, India has tried to provide or try to take it into account all the countries in the global South, to ensure that there would be some harmony or cooperation with respect to all the pillars which are required for the development of the solar power. And because of that, it has four key important goals. As you can see here, is that first is about finance. So first thing is that they will raise finance to ensure to unlock and mobilize investments at scale. The second important thing is that they will enhance in the global capability. So how does solar power work? What are the challenges that are to be envisaged? All these things that are essentially technical in level or in nature, and to foster innovation, digital platforms, and capacity building will be the second pillar. The third pillar is with respect to engagement. Engagement not just at the country level, but also at the regional level. Because different countries have different problems and they require targeted approach. So the third pillar is about engagements at countries and at the regional level to provide specific innovations. And then technology roadmap and policies. So technology is also important. A policy has to be also provided, because some of the time it would happen that in land scarce areas it would require rehabilitation. So how should the policy be provided? And it would also require technological interventions. So what should be the way in which the grid should be established? How should all the details should be mapped out? So to figure it out, all of this International Solar Alliance was established. Of course, its headquarters is in Gurgaon, India, and the mission is towards 1,000 strategy, aiming to mobilize. So this is the target that they have sought for themselves, to mobilize 1,000 billion of investments in solar energy by 2030, and then again while delivering energy access to 1,000 million people. So this is about the 1,000 strategy. So they can ask you a question: which among the following international organization have uh, have a goal of 1,000 strategy? So this would be International Solar Alliance, and resulting in the installation of 1,000 gigawatt of solar energy capacity. So they have talked about three things here. One is with respect to the investment, that is 1,000 billion of dollar of investment. Then with respect to how many people will be benefited, that is 1,000 million people. And what would be the energy capacity that would be as a result of this intervention? That would be 1,000 gigawatt of solar energy capacity. What is the impact of this? This impact would help mitigate global solar emissions to the tune of 1,000 millions of carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide annually. And the membership is 125. So initially, till 2018, the membership was limited to the countries that were there from Tropic of Cancer to Tropic of Capricorn. But after 2018, it was decided that all the member countries, all the UN members would be part, can join the International Solar Alliance. Now, recently, US have left the International Solar Alliance, but the membership continues to have grown, and it has now become 125 and more, right? Around 125 member and signatory country. Governance, it is done by ISA Assembly, which is the apex decision-making body of ISA, in which each member country is represented. So this is about ISA. Now, what are the key initiatives which ISA has taken? So we have talked about that it is going to take action in terms of fund, in terms of capacity building, in terms of technology and policy, and in terms of initiating some sort of capacity development or regional innovation. So here we have global solar facility. It is for capital, okay, in the underserved regions, means it is in global south. Then viability gap funding, again this is a capital promotion scheme which is providing 10% to the 35% of the total solar project cost as a grant. And this is for LDCs and SIDS, that is small island developing states. Solar technology application for resource center. This is for capacity building in terms of creating highly skilled solar workforce. And Solar X Startup Challenge to promote entrepreneurship to develop scalable solar solutions across ISA member countries. Okay, so some of them are applicable only for a certain region, and some schemes or some initiatives are applicable all across, right? For example, Solar X is applicable across all the member countries, but viability gap funding is only applicable to LDCs and SIDS, right? Fine. Uh, in 2016, UPSC asked a question on international, so I think, yeah, 2016 or 17, UPSC asked a question on International Solar Alliance. The first statement was ISA was launched at the UN Climate Change Conference in 2015, which is absolutely correct. Launched in collaboration with France as well, in in Paris. And the alliance includes all the member countries of the UN, which is not correct. Always remember that whenever the term all comes, it generally is not right. you have to just find one exception. So what is the one exception that you can find? US or any other country. Okay. But anyway, earlier this, as I have discussed earlier also, that the membership earlier was limited to countries which were from Tropic of Cancer to Tropic of Capricorn. Only in 2018 the membership was opened to the countries which are members of UN. But it doesn't mean, even though the membership would become open, it doesn't mean that all the countries would automatically become part of ISA. So anyway, this statement will have to be wrong only. Okay. Now let's talk about the place in news. And here we are going to talk about Lebanon. Now, why we are going to discuss Lebanon? Because recently India has joined some 29 other countries to demand safety and security of the peacekeeping operation in Lebanon. Now, UN has a peacekeeping operation in Lebanon since 1978, which is known as UNFIL, United Nations Interim Force, UNIFL, United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon, right? So it was created in 1978, but later its mandate got changed, and it is primarily limited or primarily operational at the southern Lebanon border, right? And it is essentially to oversee that the uh, peace, or the fragile peace that is there with respect to Israel on one hand, and the Hezbollah on the other side is maintained, right? So this is the mandate of the peacekeeping operation that is presently at Lebanon. But recently, because of the uh, growing expansion of the war with respect to Iran, there has been some continuous attack in the Lebanon region as well, which has also some of the peacekeeping operations members have also been targeted. And India is also among the countries which have sent its troops as part of UN peacekeeping. So this is the context. Now, since this place is in news, UPSC can ask you a question with respect to the location of Lebanon. So it is very important that you take a look into where it is located. So in the any all of the Middle East country, especially the region located near Israel, Iran, becomes extremely important because it is a region that is prone that is in conflict. So you should understand which countries are neighbors of Lebanon, which countries are neighbor of Israel or Iran for that matter. So here we can see that Lebanon is a narrow piece of land on the eastern shore of the Mediterranean Sea, and it is bounded by which countries? Syria, then Israel in the south, and Mediterranean Sea in the west. What is the geographical features? So it is divided into four distinct physiographic regions. It has a narrow coastal plains along the eastern Mediterranean Sea that is called Levant. In fact, UPSC once asked, what do you understand by the term Levant? So this is basically the coastal plain along the eastern Mediterranean Sea. Then it has mountains. It has valley, that is Al Bika Valley, and anti-Lebanon and Hermon ranges. Major rivers include Orontes, Kabir, etc. And the climate is Mediterranean climate, which is characterized by wet winter and dry summer. Now let's discuss the quick updates. So first news is with respect to Special 301 report. So US has launched a special Section 301 investigation into the manufacturing policies of some of its allies or the trade partners, including India, China, and European Union, to address the unfair trade practices. And of course, the reason why the US administration has taken this decision is because the Supreme Court of US in February had declared the tariffs imposed by Donald Trump as illegal. So this is one of the, or this could be a retaliatory measure under which the Trump administration wants to legalize the tariffs that have been imposed on different countries. Now, what is Special 301 report? It is under Trade Act of 1974, which identifies countries that are considered by US as not providing adequate and effective protection of IPRs or labor or undermining the labor rights. So essentially what US would want to do is it would prove, or through this investigation it wants to prove that these countries somehow are bypassing the trade norms, the fair trade norms, and therefore it is flooding the US markets through their goods, either by using some unfair practices, or by using the some exploitative trade practices, right? Uh, and it has designated countries as priority foreign country, priority watch list, and watch list. So these are some of the important categories that we should be careful about. So again, this could again culminate into another round of hostility between US and its allies, because this can further create problems with respect to the trade negotiation that India and US are currently ongoing. Then the next news is with respect to FSSAI, that is Food Safety and Standards Authority of India. Now, why it is a news? Because it has directed the milk producers who are not part of dairy cooperative societies to maintain mandatory registration or a license before commencing or continuing their food business operation. And now the simple reason why this has been undertaken is because of the adulteration practices. You may have heard about several adulteration practices of paneer or for milk, right? And especially these practices start growing, especially during the some of the festive seasons, right? So in under this, the FSSAI was under continuous pressure to take some corrective stand, and that is why it has taken this measure. Now, what is FSSAI? It is a statutory body, which means that it has been established through an act, and it works under the Food Safety and Standards Act, and it works under Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Its function is to lay down standards for food and to regulate their manufacture, storage, distribution, import, to ensure availability of safe and wholesome food. It consists of a chairperson and 22 members, out of which one third are women. Initiatives that they have taken is Eat Right movement, RUCO, that is repurpose used cooking oil, and food fortification, etc. Next, Article 105. So this is in context of the recent motion for removal of the sitting Lok Sabha Lok Sabha speaker, and when the proceeding was undertaking, or after the proceedings went through, it did not went through. In fact, the matter had to be dropped, and then the Lok Sabha speaker got to speak about the entire matter. So he mentioned that Article 105 of the Constitution, it places some limitation on the freedom of speech of the parliamentarians, right, within the framework of the parliamentary rules. So we should understand what exactly is Article 105 in this context. So 105 article, it defines the powers, privileges, and the immunities of the parliament and its members and the committees. What are the key provisions? First is that no member of parliament shall be liable to any proceedings in any court in respect of anything said or any vote given by him in parliament or any committee. So this is part of the freedom of speech that is there. So it is about the proceedings or the kind of protection that is there. No person shall be liable in respect of the publication under the authority of either house for of any report, paper, votes, or proceedings. Then other powers and privileges are to be defined by the parliament by law, or to follow those that existed at the time of the 44th Amendment in 1978. So all of them, the eligibility is persons entitled to speak and take part in parliamentary proceedings, example MPs, Attorney Generals of India, etc. So the key point here is that yes, they have the power, freedom of speech in these forms, including the way they are speaking, all these things are there, but it is not an absolute right. So what are the limitation which is imposed? Limitation is it has to be done with respect to parliamentary rules, conventions, decorums, all these things, right? So this is what you should be aware of. Then supernova and magnetar. So recently the astrophysicists have identified magnetar as the cause behind an extremely bright supernova. So what are supernova? They are extremely bright, violent explosions that take place during the death or final stages of the death of a super massive star. So that is supernova. Now, what is the reason why it happens? It is because of the magnetar. So magnetars are nothing but they are neutron stars having very high magnetic fields, which are billions of times stronger than the uh, magnets that are there on Earth. Now they're form of a neutron star. Now the exact correlation is yet to be understood, but we should understand the basic concepts that is there. So what are neutron stars? So they are the dead remnants of stars, or the remaining parts of the stars composed entirely of neutron. That is why they are called as neutron stars. They are so heavy and dense that the electrons and protons which make up the atoms have been crushed together into neutrons. So that is why they are called as neutron star. Next, Operation Sagar Bandhu. So what is important here is which organization has launched this? It is launched by Indian Army. What is this about? About a major bridge project in Sri Lanka, and uh, it was launched as part of HADR to support Sri Lanka in the aftermath of the cyclone Ditwa, guided by India's neighborhood first policy and Mission Sagar, Vision Mahasagar, that is mutual and holistic security and growth for all in the region. So this is all what is required. The last news is Found Pro. So the Center for Development of Telematics, CDOT, has received global recognition at the Mobile World Congress for Fraud Pro. Now the cyber security measures which we need to take needs to be more sophisticated, because the attacks that are being conducted at the digital level have becoming more and more sophisticated. So therefore there are several expo or the competitions which are conducted for different countries and for different departments and startups to showcase their prowess in the cyber security domain. And recently CDOT has won uh, or received global recognition at the Mobile World Congress for this initiative called Fraud Pro. So what is this? It is an advanced AI and ML driven fraud detection platform aimed at securing telecom ecosystems against identity based fraud. The application is to proactively detect fraudulent mobile connections in the network and prevent misuse of the telecom resources. It is developed by the Department of Telecommunication in India as part of a digital intelligence platform and Sanchar Sathi portal. So this is what is required. In fact, you should just know what is the objective of this portal and which agency is responsible for the development of this particular portal, right? So this could also be used as an example as part of internal security, especially in the cyber security part. So this is all about the news today discussion for today. I hope this was good. Thank you and all the best.